An episode or two ago, I said that mental strength and emotional intelligence was the bare minimum. And I kind of rocked my own world with that one a little bit. I'm not going to lie. So I want to talk about it because we all love a good healing era, but that's all it is it's an era. And somehow we turned it into a full-time job? Question mark. It's not supposed to be a lifestyle. Healing is supposed to be a tool that we utilize to improve our lifestyle. Healing is important and it's a constant thing in the sense that you should always be mindful of where you can heal and learn and grow. But we have kind of turned it into a personality, and that's not what healing is. It's not a personality trait, bestie. And this can show up in a couple different ways. And honestly, I think one of the big things for me is not being willing to accept that I have transformed it into a personality because I think that I am emotionally intelligent and mentally strong and I've got it figured out. I'm self aware. I like this and it feels good to be in this space a little bit more. And we'll get into all of the reasons it feels good. Don't you worry. But I think this comes through in several different ways. And be open with me because, like I said, you might not be willing to say that this is what you're doing, but it's quite possible that you are. And so let it be the aesthetic of wellness and whether you are ticking off all of the boxes of wellness, green smoothies, yoga, waking up early, skincare, all of the things that we all know and love, self improvement books, it can be mental and it can be out in the physical. Whether you're either actually executing those things or you're like beating yourself up for not executing the things like you want to be and you're trying to incorporate all of the stuff into your life more. Or it also can show up in the sense of, and I think that this way is almost like the more realistic way. Like the aesthetic wellness is like kind of like a fever dream, where this is like where we really start to deny whether or not we're performing wellness and we've made it our whole personality. And it's the idea that we are approaching everything. And I'm going to do hella air quotes right now. So if you're just listening, just picture them in your mind that we're doing everything right, that we're doing everything healed, we're doing everything well, we're doing everything we can to, and again, air quotes, do things better to be more, air quotes, self improved. And the whole time, you're abandoning yourself in the process. And you might not see it that way. Like I really truly didn't see it that way for myself. I didn't realize I was self abandoning because I was going with what life was handing me. And I wasn't choosing things for myself. I wasn't going with the feelings of not wanting something or being uncomfortable about stuff or just not living in alignment with how I pictured my life to go. Again, like not doing what I wanted. And I would just try to self improve my way through the things that were happening instead of making better choices for myself. It requires you to have the skill of zooming out and looking at your life as a whole and making some pretty tough decisions and being pretty brave with the choices that you make. Welcome to Wellish, the podcast for self aware people who are doing all of the work, but still live their life just a little bit messy. Make sure to rate and review the show. It really helps keep Wellish going. And make sure to subscribe so you get more Wellish content on your feed. All right, buckle in. I'm about to shake up your world a little bit, okay? Here's the deal. We wrap our identity in the trauma we experience, the work we do to overcome that trauma, and the lessons that that trauma has taught us, and we forget we're supposed to graduate from the healing. We're supposed to graduate from the self improvement and start living again. It's not just supposed to be this constant state of healing, but that's terrifying. And let me tell you why, because it doesn't seem like it. You think, no, it's fine. I self improve. That's the whole point. I'll get through it. Let me tell you why it's terrifying. We use self improvement as a lifeline. We use it as a safety net to fall back on so that we can be likable and so that we know that we're doing all of the right things. Because if we do all the right things, it ensures us in our brain and our latch onto self improvement, I'm going to figure it all out brain that we'll be okay. I want to get really clear on this because I know when I use the word graduate, it makes it sound like we're going against everything we very well know. And that's that self improvement has no end. You will never one day cross a threshold and feel fully transformed. Oh my God, I've made it. This is my moment. I'm finally the person that I want to be. And you're very smart. That's true. That is how that works. It is a constant process. But the idea of graduating isn't about being done, it's about making the choice to progress forward and become the person, show up as the person that you're self improving to become. It's making it so that self improvement isn't at the forefront of how you live your life. It's not your number one priority. You don't have to make every experience you ever have a lesson. It's not this thing that is driving every decision that you make in your life, every thought that you think, every emotion you feel. You don't need to do all of the right things or handle everything with the utmost self improvement in order to prove to yourself that you're good enough or that you're all right. You carry the tools, but you also let yourself live in order to utilize the tools. It's not about making growth your identity or making it that you are in this space of having to prove how much work you have put in for to yourself. It's not about making growth your entire identity or needing to live in the space of proving how much work you've done to improve yourself. It's not staying in this space of over processing instead of embodiment, or that you're confusing insight with action. And we just get this idea in our head that we have to fully heal or continue to learn enough that that will transform us into being able to embody the transformed version that we're trying to get to, that we have to get it right and figure everything out first in order to be able to step into this new life, this new version of us. This episode is for the person that has done the inner work. You've got the language. You know your triggers. You've got it figured out. You know what tools to utilize in order to make yourself feel better. And I'm not saying you've got it all figured out perfectly, but you've done the work, okay? You're not the person that you used to be anymore. But you're terrified of what it would mean, what it would look like to be someone other than that person that needed to heal. You feel like healing gave you a sense of control. It feels like structure. It gives you this like sense of purpose, and letting that go, saying, okay, I'm going to step into this person now and I don't have to spend all of my energy on my healing, feels like you're letting go of your anchor. It's scary. It also feels kind of wrong because it feels like this is the first time that you've felt better than you have ever, like it feels like you're not that unevolved version of you anymore, that you've made it so far. It's gotten you through so much self improvement. It's gotten you to feel better about who you are and helped you build your confidence and realize your self worth and build your mental strength and resilience and feel more emotionally intelligent so you can understand what's happening in your life. And the understanding allows you to navigate it better. So it feels almost like I don't even, I want to use the word betrayal. Like it almost feels like what do you mean I'm supposed to let this go? Like this is what's helped me get so far. I want to keep going so that I keep getting better. It's not a it's not a thing that you're going to let it go forever. Again, it's always going to be a constant process, but you have to make the choice to start allowing yourself to live in alignment with all of the work that you've put in. Healing is a skill set, and as you're learning things, once you've learned them, you don't have to stay in the classroom. Letting go of that consistent identity of healing doesn't mean you're abandoning your growth. Let go a little, like give yourself a little bit more credit than that. You're smart. Your brain still has that information. It's not just going to suddenly control alt delete it because you decide that you want to start stepping into this version of you that you want to be and away from the version of you that you were healing from. If we were able to do that, think about how many things that we would really be able. I would unlearn so many things if just choosing to be somebody else or do something else meant that the old habits that I don't want in my life would control alt delete. We would use that all the time. That's not how that works. You're still going to heal by default because you know that it makes you feel better. You're still going to look for lessons and experiences because you know that it helps you grow. But it's this idea that you have to actively choose to start living in alignment with the version of you you were trying to get to, that you were self improving to try to step into. That's not going to just happen. You have to make that choice. Letting go means you start applying your growth. It gives you your power back because you stop overanalyzing everything and just start living. If it's fun, if it's messy, if it's great, if it's aligned, if it's elevated, if you screw things up, if things go wrong, it's giving yourself permission to just live. You can take risks and you're a little bit more bold because you know that you trust yourself to handle things that come up in your life. And through that genuine living, it makes you more magnetic. Instead of just self aware, you're acting instead of just analyzing your way through life. Here's one of the most important truths that I think people like us who allow healing to take over their entire personality seem to forget is that every inflow needs outflow. It's what I'm constantly yapping and jamming into your guys' head about is the knowledge to skill gap. Every piece of information that we acquire, every little bit of knowledge that we attain, we have to then apply it and build the skill. And it's not going to be immediate because it's in our brains and because we fully understand it. We think that we have the skill to turn around and apply what it is that we've learned. Because I'm sorry, because we've had the knowledge, we can turn around and apply the skill. But that's not how that works. You have to build it like a practice, just like anything else. But I also have another perspective shift that I swear really changed my relationship with self improvement. I used to think that I needed to sleep, eat, and breathe self improvement. Why? Because I would think, and logically this makes sense, I'm sure you're going to agree with me, is that the more I do, I will reach maximum results. It makes sense. The more you do, the better results you get. But then when I wasn't in this like space of self-improvement, like I just wasn't really in that headspace. I wasn't, doing all of the healthy eating. I wasn't going on walks. I wasn't waking up early. I didn't have a morning routine. I wasn't reading self-help books. I wasn't watching the stuff. And when I say, wasn't and was, get out of your extremism. Like it's not 100% on, 100% off. It's just that I am more into it in some eras and some eras I back off of it. And when I was in the eras that I would back off of it, I felt guilty for that. Like I needed to be doing more. And I was, almost in more of like this frantic space of like trying to make sure that I was doing all of the self improvement as much as I could. And a lot of these periods, when I actually like think about it and reflect and look back, it's these like large chunks of time. And the reason I say like when I look back and reflect is because like when you're in these moments or when you're not aware of this idea that I'm talking about, that I'm going to get to in a second, is that you are thinking that the chunks of time are much smaller, like weeks or months. I'm talking years. Like it's possible that this could be a couple years span of your life because really if you think about your whole life in the grand scheme of things these couple years that you're on and off of stuff, it's not really that long of an amount of time. And the times that I would be like off per se would be when I was in a relationship or it would be when I was spending a lot of time with my friends or I was really involved in the community, in organizations. I had a lot of stuff that filled my plate on the day to day basis so that spending, I wasn't drawn to, maybe I should say, self improvement as much as I was when I had these other periods that I found myself more in solitude, like when I'm single or when something bad happens in my life and I lean on self improvement in order to make myself understand it and feel better. But inevitably, there is always this flow back and forth between the two. You go through periods of time that you're not really as self improvement forward, and there's periods of time that you spend all of your time doing it. Like, for example, find myself, like now that I'm single, I find myself constantly like I'm reading self-improvement books, not like wildly, but like just like here and there, picking a book up, reading 10 pages, something like that, whatever. I am making dinner and I'm watching self-improvement videos on YouTube. I listen to podcasts while I drive. I listen to TED Talks in the shower. I listen to stuff while I put my laundry away. You know what I mean? Like I'm spending a lot more time doing this stuff just because I feel like it, just because it makes me feel good, not because I'm trying to pound stuff into my head because I feel like I have to because it'll make me feel better, but just because I genuinely enjoy it. I genuinely like the feeling that it gives me and the ideas and the knowledge and the growth that I gain from doing those things. And when I was, just for sake of example, and the way that my life is currently set up, when I was in a relationship, I didn't really do that because I was enjoying spending my time with them. I spent a lot of time talking and going out and doing things and going to dinners. And even if we were just like at the house, you're, like I said, you're talking, you're spending time together. When you're not making dinner and listening to stuff, I mean, and again, don't think with extremism. It's not all or nothing. You can do that sometimes, and you do that sometimes, but it's just not as intense as some other periods in your life. And if we allow ourselves to really lean in to that ebb and flow of pull towards self improvement, it really will help us reap the benefits of what self improvement is trying to teach us. So, if you spend your time that you're in solitude, something bad has happened, that you're really pulled towards self improvement, gaining as much knowledge and growth and healing as you can during that period of time, then, when inevitably it flows back to a period that you're not as pulled towards self improvement, you enter a relationship, you're around friends a lot, you're involved in a lot of things, you've got a really great job, you've got things going on in your life that don't make it so that you want to be as involved in self improvement or you're not as pulled to it. That is your application and absorption period. You apply everything that you learned during your previous self improvement haul and you absorb everything from this period of time that you're not as involved in it so that you can use that during your next self improvement period to heal and learn and grow from. And if you allow this ebb and flow, if you just allow yourself to back off and not be so angry at yourself and guilting yourself for not doing all of the aesthetic wellness things all of the time, or that should be doing more because then maybe you would feel better about yourself, back off a little bit. You don't have to be doing things all of the time. Allow life to play out, allow yourself to live, and utilize those experiences when you do flow inevitably back into the self improvement periods. When you try to force it all the time, you're not letting it do its job. So, if you allow this ebb and flow, you'll really be able to reap the benefits of self improvement. You'll be able to reap the benefits and you'll be able to enjoy all of the hard work that you put in during your self improvement period. Let's talk about what this looks like in application. Like, what does it look like to graduate from self improvement? You might not like this one because it's a feel good tactic. It's something that you think makes you good enough. Okay. It's something that makes you feel like you're okay and you're well and you're doing all the right things. But healing needs to stop being your aesthetic. You're allowed to wear the beige sweatsuit. You're allowed to do 5 a.m. yoga. You're allowed to drink lemon water if that's genuinely, truly in your heart of hearts what you want to do. And it's not performative and it's not something that you think will be another thing to check off the list to make you feel like you're good enough and you're well. You can do all of those things without being stuck in self improvement mode 24/7, like stuck in that performative mentality of like, I got to do all of these things and that's when I will feel okay in my own skin. You don't lose the aesthetic. Just like show up with what genuinely you feel like doing. Because the healing journey isn't a forever vibe, it is a bridge to get you from an old version of you to a new version of you. And being well and being in therapy and being self improved does not mean that your life cannot be chaotic and fun and messy and risk takey and bold and all of those things. Like it's not this idea that everything has to be like calm and chill and carefree and unbothered. Yeah, like that's no. Like you things can still be chaotic and you can still be well. And that genuine ebb and flow between chaos and calmness is what makes you magnetic because it makes you a real person. The second thing is utilizing self awareness as a permission slip to self abandon. Because if you are constantly processing, more likely than not, you're probably avoiding action. There's a difference between being aware of your patterns and living under them, like a rule book. Like, oh, well, I'm just that way, so I can't be any other way. I have anxiety, so that means every time I walk into a restaurant, I feel this influx of social anxiety and I think that I'm awkward and I think that I don't know how to hold conversation and I don't know how to make eye contact. God forbid I ever try to flirt. That's a joke. There's absolutely no way that I'm ever going to do that because I'm a person with anxiety. You identify as this thing, and it causes you to live under this identification as a rule book for the only way that you can live your life. Even though you now know, you're now aware of it, you have the awareness that you're feeling anxiety and you have the tools to help soothe the anxiety. You're not allowing it to control your life. You're still going to the situations and putting yourself in those scenarios, but you're just automatically expecting yourself to be awkward and to be the thing that you are trying to move away from because that's just who I am. I'm aware of it. That's just who I am. You don't need to earn your next season. You don't need to earn this new character development, this level up by being healed first, by figuring it all out first. You earn it by showing up and practicing that skill, knowledge to skill gap. You learn the knowledge, inflow, and then you have to outflow, apply the skill. And it's not going to be perfect, but you're not going to get better until you start to make that change and you actively choose to show up as the version of yourself that you're self improving to become. This next one is really good, in my opinion, because I don't think this is normalized. And I don't like that. Like, I think that this next one is something that we really all, especially us in this self improvement space that like want to be better, need to get through our goddamn thick skulls. You can be wild and still be growing. Like, you can be messy and still be healed. Sometimes getting things wrong can actually be kind of fun. Like, it's good for the plot, Like, it doesn't feel fun in the moment. Like, let me motherfucking tell you, it does not feel fun in the moment at all. But when you move through it, even a little bit, and when you heal from it, even a little bit, and you look back on it, you think that built character for me. Like that makes me a more interesting individual because I had this experience. It's not cool that you had the experience if it's something bad or something that was really hurtful for you. Like, it sucks that you had to go through that. But I would rather go through things and get things wrong and have missteps and trust myself that I'm moving forward than just have like this vanilla ass life. That's boring. Like, you're allowed to be healing and still be risky, loud, in love, unsure, even reckless. Like, you can be reckless in this. You can make mistakes. Chaos doesn't mean regression. It can mean that, but it also can mean expansion. And the reason that recklessness and chaos get confused for unwell behavior is when there is no accountability, there's no ownership. When you just act chaotic or you act reckless without considering what the repercussions of your actions are, what the consequences might be, if you're gonna hurt anybody in that process. You act chaotic and reckless and never do anything about it. You never reflect. You don't become aware. You don't figure out why you do those things. You don't try to grow and heal and make yourself better so that you don't do things. And this is in response to like if you do chaotic and reckless things and that equates to some negative repercussion and that you don't turn around and say like what made me do that, what could I do, how could I do better next time. That's when it gets, that's when it's unwell. But it can also be brave. And it can, like I said, lead to expansion. It could create beautiful, wonderful, good things in your life. Like, for example, let's say you quit your job without a backup plan. That's kind of chaotic, bro. Like, that's kind of a wild choice to make. But maybe it's the first time in your life that you have actually fully trusted yourself to handle that instead of following what the old you would have done and just continued on at the same job, even though you hate it because it means being secure. You're being a little bit reckless, you're being a little bit wild over choosing your normal habit of security. And that would be a good thing. Like maybe the chaos is allowing you to break out of a life that is too small for you at this point. Lastly, you gotta move the fuck on, all right? Letting go of your healing identity is not going to suddenly like reverse everything that you just did and make you unhealed. It means that you get it now. It means that you self improved. It means that you gathered the knowledge that you need in order to apply the skill that you have to you do in order to step into this version of you that you actually want to be. It doesn't need to be some moment. Like you've been telling yourself in your head that there's going to be some moment that that's when you'll be able to show up as this version that you want to be, but you don't have to be loud about it. Like you don't have to tell anybody who you are now. You don't have to prove to anybody that you're going to be this transformed version of you. Sometimes what makes self-improvement hot, what makes a person so magnetic is just quietly starting to show up as that person. You are not obligated to stay in that old version of you just because you used to identify as that old version of you. You're not obligated to continue to identify as a person that has anxiety or is a people pleaser or is not sexy or that should feel shame just because you used to, just because that used to be something that you identified as. You are allowed to outgrow that and you should outgrow that. And insert any word, in anything that you can think of that you no longer want to identify as, you just don't have to anymore. The moment that I stopped saying, "Oh, I just have anxiety," and no longer identifying as a person that had anxiety was the first moment that that started to change for me. That I really don't feel crippled by anxiety anymore. Do I still get anxious? Absolutely. But I do not let the anxiety control my life anymore. And I truly don't identify as a person that has anxiety anymore. And obviously, we get into the idea that like there's chemical imbalances and like actual diagnoses, but like even still, like if you stop identifying as a person that has that and think of it as a means of something that you work through, like it's something that you've got, it's something that your brain does, but it's not who I am. It makes a big difference in you allowing yourself to shift into this new character that you know that you are capable of being, that you know you want to become, that you've worked so hard at self improving in order to be that person. Allow yourself to reap the benefits of that. You need to move on because you're not all of the things that you used to identify with anymore. And we know that because you've worked so hard to improve those things. And you have to actually actively change that mindset. Isn't that why you started the self improvement to begin with? To move away from that? So allow yourself to move away from it. Stop being boring and being well just because it keeps you safe. You'll transform and step into this version of you that you want to be more and more as your mindset develops, like as you continue to learn and grow. And that's why it's a constant process. But you won't just do that. Like learning enough won't make that automatically happen. You have to make the active choice to start showing up as this evolved you, as the new you, the you that you've been putting all of this effort into self improvement in order to become. You have to move on because your healing arc can't be your plot line forever. At some point, it's time for romance, for joy, for chaos, for expansion. And that's the real arrival. That's where self trust lives. This week, ask yourself, are you still healing or are you just scared to move on without the safety net of self improvement? If you felt this, let me know. Tag me on Instagram or on TikTok or DM me, whatever's easier, at Wellish Podcast, or you can reach out to me on my personal at sarah.rittendale. Send this to your friend who has all the insight, all the language, all the therapy notes, and is just dying to let go and just be again. It's time to move the hell on. I will talk to you guys next Monday. Bye.